Thomas Rideout.
Eric Van
How are you
Johnson.
doing? How are you doing, my buddy?
I'm doing pretty good.
So 61 is a very important number in baseball history. Babe
Yeah.
Ruth, Babe Ruth set the single season home run record as 60 in 1961, and that stood for several years. I don't remember exactly how long until Roger Maris finally broke it. So the new record was 61. There's a real popular movie out there. It's a great movie too. Billy Crystal has directed it or produced it. I can't remember which one, but it follows Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris as he's pursuing to beat this 61 record. And then years and years later, I mean that 61 home runs in a single season stood for a very long time. Actually, I'm sorry. Babe Ruth, I think, set the record in 1927, and Roger Maris broke it in 1961. I think that might be the numbers. He 61 home runs, 1961 baseball.
I'm actually
See,
a bigger fan of Nolan Ryan.
You're going to get that.
Ryan, who had 61 shutouts in his career.
See, you're not getting any of that. See, you think you have the power, but you don't have the power.
Welcome to episode 61, everybody.
When you edit this, you're going to hear the sound effects. I'm doing sound effects here. You're not hearing the sound effects. They're sound effects.
No, you're just ruining your audio stream.
No, you're just ruining my intro, stepping all over me as per usual.
I wasn't stepping all over you at all.
Stepping all over me as per usual. Do you even know who broke Roger Maris's record of 61 home runs? Do you even care?
It was two people, wasn't it? It was
That's spooky. Nope. That you even got that close.
I know that it's two people. I remember the big contest.
Wow. That is impressive. You're right. So Mark McGwire.
Mark McGwire.
Sammy Sosa were in the running to beat it.
Right.
Sammy actually didn't quite get as close, but Mark McGwire did end up beating it. And then years and years later, Bonds, I think, shattered it as well. And I was at the game, I believe. Was it that game that I was at? I was at one of the big games where Bonds hit this big record home run. But so yeah,
the guy who caught McGwire's ball took a Sharpie to it and put a little asterisk on it. Seriously.
So that he would know it was his, or why? Why did he
so that he would know that it was conditional on use of steroids.
Are you serious? Did he really do that?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, way to take the great American game to doom and gloom there, Thomas.
Oh, it's all week this week. I hope you're excited.
Man, I got sound effects here. Here, a dramatic piano for you. That's not nearly as doomy.
I don't hear nothing.
Drums. Oh, there's a little rim shot there.
It's like Halloween on our Trello board this week. It has been a spectacularly bad week in tech.
We can't just jump into the news, Thomas.
No, I'm just excited. We're supposed
to have a conversation. Why doesn't it look like my camera is set up correctly? What's going on here?
I feel like I'm not.
I am typically much cuter than this. Yeah. All right. Hey, did you notice Hangouts got the bottom third there again, eh?
Yeah, I'm liking it. Not super helpful for a podcast, but if you're one of the one people who watches our live feed, you can see it.
But there's a whole lot of things that are happening at Google right now. Google I/O keynote. Google I/O is going on right now, and the keynote was yesterday. And I made the massive, massive mistake of watching the keynote in my office where I have a Google Assistant, and that thing was just going off nonstop. I'm like, I couldn't. I was tempted to unplug it. It just, a lot of the Google keynote was around the Google Assistants and the things you can do with Google, and they kept saying that the trigger phrase multiple times. Did you watch the keynote for Google I/O at all?
No, I watched the Destiny 2 keynote this morning.
Mm.
But,
So not surprising. They're not. They don't have they. I might have missed it. I didn't watch the whole thing, and Google I/O is still going on, so they're still announcing things. But from what I had seen, they didn't announce any new Google Home Assistants. The big thing was the behavior for the Google Home Assistant was going to get integrated into Android. So everybody was going to have the Google Assistant. However, the one thing I did think that was pretty interesting and almost looked like a feature-to-feature attack on the Echo is you're going to be able to make phone calls with your Google Assistant. Anywhere
that
in
does
the
seem
US.
like a direct response.
And they have the infrastructure to do this. They've had Google Voice for years. It used to be, they bought Grand Central back in early 2000. They've been like hoarding this little Google Voice service, which I think is a fantastic service. I don't know why they don't publicize more for it. It's one of the services that I would be more than happy to pay for to get some additional features, but they offer for free. And Google Voice has been my phone number probably for 10 years now. Every phone I've ever had, I set it up to use Google Voice, and I've never had to tell anybody to use a different phone number, even though I've switched cell phones, I've switched offices. I haven't told people to use any other number but my Google Voice number for years. But so they've had the infrastructure there, and now they didn't say they were leveraging it, or if they did, I missed it. But when they said that you'll be able to make phone calls with the Home Assistant, they didn't say you had to have a Google Voice account. All they said was you can call anywhere in the U.S. for free. I think it might even be the U.S. and Canada. I'm not totally sure on that. So it's just, I imagine you're going to have to set up a Google Voice account, because they're not just going to let you call anonymously to people. But yeah, I thought that was super, super cool. And yeah, a direct, and unlike the Echo, where the Echo is a Echo to Echo call, Google Voice is calling any landline or mobile line. So you just call somebody on their regular phone call. They don't need to have a Google Assistant for you to call them.
Yeah, that is going to be nice.
Yeah,
I mean,
if
I had a Google Assistant, which I don't.
Well, you have an Android phone, right?
I have an old one.
Well, now your Android phone can make phone calls.
No, it's old.
It's a cell phone, dude. It could always make phone calls. Come on,
barely makes phone calls too.
Here, hold on. I gotta do my rim shot. Oh yeah, you're gonna love editing this one.
Oh,
this is going to work. I'm liking this. So Google I/O is still going on. I've been to a couple Google I/Os, and it's a fantastic conference to go to if you can afford it. It used to be, I don't know if it's still the case, but it used to be quite profitable to go to a Google I/O.
Yeah.
I mean, they used to give away some ridiculous gifts. I got my first Android phone from a Google I/O that I went to. I got my first Chromebook, which I used that Chromebook up until about a year ago. It's still sitting here on my shelf somewhere. I got my first Android tablet at a Google I/O event. I mean, it was ridiculous, the crap that they gave people at the Google I/O event. Ridiculous.
Yeah, now you just get the Google Cardboard.
Is that it?
I'm not sure what the prize package is this year, but I'm sure it's good. Yeah. Google always likes to give away a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So excited about tech next week. Heading to Atlanta. headed to the ATL where the players play. I think
Maybe we'll actually get John back on the podcast for that one.
Yeah, I don't know. He's going out there with the family. I know he's got a lot going on. John's
that's
from
right.
the East Coast.
I forgot he ruined his vacation already.
So John is leaving for Tech tomorrow. I mean, not for Tech. John is leaving for the East Coast tomorrow. He's going to take some time, visit family, meet me up at Tech on Tuesday. I actually fly in on Tuesday. Really looking for Tech. I don't think we're going to have a podcast next week, Thomas.
I thought we were going to do it remote. I thought we were going to have the PHP Tech GaggleCon thing.
Yeah, we are. We are going to do that. Do you think you're going to be a part of it? Is that what you thought?
Oh, fingers crossed.
That's a good idea. I'm going to see. I don't know anything about it. Like I said, the organizers of Tech reached out and said, or asked if we'd be interested. Said yeah. That's pretty much all I know. I did see. I think that the plan is to do it Thursday night because that is community night, and in the email they said on community night there are going to be games. And a podcast was one of the things on the list. So I assume that's the podcast we'll be doing, and excited about that. It's going to be fun stuff.
I'd love to invite myself to that one.
You can invite yourself. I don't know how it's going to work out. I like I said, I've seen podcasts and I've listened to podcasts done at conferences a few times, and they are rarely ever very well done. Between the bandwidth limitations of the hotel, just the general noise and audio of whatever room they stick the people in, it kind of it's typically not the best of quality podcast. But if we can use it as our podcast for that week, I will probably do that. Yeah, I get to meet. Well, what's that?
I blame the editors.
The editors.
Yeah.
And I get to meet Sammy K. So I mean, I've met him in passing before, but I've never sat down at a table with him and have done a podcast. So that's going to be exciting stuff.
Who's Sammy K?
You do not know who Sammy K is, and you call yourself a PHP podcaster?
I'm doing an interview technique for the listeners who don't know who Sammy K is.
Sammy K is probably one of the first podcasts I listened to that was PHP specific. He does the PHP Roundtable, and great guy, funny guy, dancer. He was actually recently here in San Diego at a dance competition. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, real good guy. Been doing podcasting for a super long time. He actually now contributes to PHP Core, which is huge. I mean, the guy had a feature that he wanted to implement, and he taught himself C and wrote the piece of code and submitted to Core, and yeah, I mean the guy is legit.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought so.
So what else have you been up to this week?
Let's see. What else have I been up to this week? So the kid, one of my daughters has taken up coding, and I couldn't be more excited.
I saw that. You forced her to get a Twitter account.
Did not? Oh, okay. I did force her to get a Twitter account. That's true. She did not want to do. I guess Twitter is not cool with the kids anymore.
No.
So I didn't force her. I strongly encouraged her. Told her there were some great resources out there that she could follow, and so she did. I said, if you don't want it so that it's something your friends have an expectation of you contributing to, have a very focused Twitter stream. So Milo the Coder is her handle. Milo _the_ coder. If anybody's interested in following a young lady who is making her first foray into coding, and yeah, she's sticking with it. I gotta tell you, I'm excited. I figured she's kind of teased me with this idea before, and it's been like, all of half a day. It would retain her interest. But she is, I think, going on day 3 or day 4 now. She spends at least an hour a day. The other day, I called her in bed. Uh, After she'd done her hour, she usually hangs out with me in my office and codes for an hour. But I caught her in bed doing some more coding, which I thought was, a good sign. And
Could be worse.
Could be worse. Yeah. So yeah, I when we were trying to decide what it was that she was going to do, obviously I gravitate towards PHP. I mean, just obviously, right? That makes sense. And I didn't want to send her down that path yet, right? Because she has so many just basic skills she needs to learn. And I remember, and I know just in general, with people who are wanting to learn new things, you want that immediate gratification. You want to
Sure.
write some code, see something happen. You don't always get that with PHP, especially the way we do it. We're actually notorious for doing back end work where there's never even a front end. So I knew I kind of wanted to do JavaScript, something that was on the surface immediately. I wanted her to learn Vue because, again, being a big Laravel group, I'm very, very Laravel focused. Vue is huge. I wanted to learn Vue. But I was reading through the tutorials as if I didn't know anything about coding, which actually wasn't that far of a stretch, unfortunately. Wait, I got my rim chef. Hold on. Okay. But I read through the tutorials and I just wasn't impressed. And I looked through a couple of other potential frameworks and I settled on Ember.js because Ember.js, the tutorial that comes with Ember, is very complete, very test heavy. So it's almost TDD. The tutorial is pretty much test driven development. She doesn't know that. She doesn't understand why she's right. I mean, writing the test right now for her is just part of the process of coding. So she doesn't realize that it's, an extra step or something that a lot of people don't even do.
That's nice.
Yeah. So she's learning these practices right from the beginning and working her way through the Ember tutorial. And I've got some other tutorials that I want her to look at next. And what's really fun, and I think one of the things that maybe she's stuck with it, is when she runs into a problem or she's kind of stuck, it's not an immediate, I know what your problem is, I can fix it situation for me. Because I don't know the Ember framework. I've never worked in the Ember framework. I know some JavaScript. I'm not particularly fluent in JavaScript either, but I do know how to debug and troubleshoot. So I think she likes that. I can't really tell. I think if she came to me and I just sat there and said, "Oh, yeah, silly, you forgot this or you missed this," it might seem like, "Oh, I'm so far behind. This is so worthless." But really, I mean, she's learning things that I don't know, and so she has a problem, and she brings it to me, and she just says, "Yeah, Dad, I'm supposed to have like 3 tests failing, and I have 20 tests failing." I'm like, "All right, well, there's a problem somewhere," and I show her how to read the test or how to read the results of the test and look at the code, and we do it together. So it's fun. It's
so you had the talk then about Stack Overflow.
Not yet. Yeah, that's coming.
Didn't tell her all our dark secret.
Mm-mm.
None of us know what we're doing. We all use Stack Overflow.
I can't give her all the tricks yet. It's a slow process. I still have to, I want to leave some of that impression of I know what I'm doing or I'm actually good at something without her without showing the man behind the curtain too quickly.
Yeah, you don't want to give it away.
But yeah, besides that, man, I have gotten so heavily back on the Docker train. It's ridiculous. TJ Miller, who is pretty big guy in the PHP community, in the Laravel community especially. He's been making the rounds on a bunch of podcasts lately. We talked to him last week on Larachat Live, but him and I had been exchanging telegrams for a while, just kind of talking back and forth. Super friendly, super nice guy, and he's huge on Docker. And he kind of rekindled my interest. I had kind of shelved Docker. Like I'd done enough of it where I'd gotten a pretty good understanding of it, and I saw a lot of benefit to it, but I didn't get to the point where I'm like, okay, this is it. This is all I'm implementing. I had kind of gotten there for my personal development environment, and then I ended up. I don't know if you remember this story, but I ended up rolling that out because I was running into a couple of issues I couldn't resolve, and I mean, that's how I make a living, right? I have to do development, right. So I ended up having to re-implement another solution. I went with Valet. I still didn't go back to Vagrant. I went with Valet with a lot of the stuff. I still use Vagrant for a couple things, but after talking to TJ for a while, he really got me interested in it again. And we have a client that's a very unique use case, and I think Docker is the perfect scenario for it. Because they have a bunch of different version requirements. They have a very microservice sort of driven environment where they have services running on multiple servers, some Nginx, some Apache, some using MySQL, some using Postgres. So I started working through my Docker implementation for that again, and so happy with the progress where now I'm toying around with the idea again of implementing Docker containers that I can just push to production. Docker containers that I can give to a developer, say, hey, develop in this container, and then have that container be part of the deployment when we do deployments. I'm not there yet, but I'm definitely getting a standardized Docker environment for development. And I'm working through, I think before it was my mindset with Vagrant and virtualization, it's all or nothing, right? You spin up this virtual server and you start adding everything you need. You need the MySQL, you need the web server. And I think that was the biggest problem I had with my initial approach with Docker, and probably a lot of people's initial approach with Docker, is I wanted to get from 0 to 100 really quick. And so I tried to put all the blocks together in one pass. And when things weren't working, it started to get a little overwhelming of what piece wasn't working. So this time I'm taking a much more scaled back approach where I'm slowly putting the web server together and making sure the web server works. Yeah, the web server, everything's perfect with the web server. Now I'm adding on the database store, the data store, the database, and making sure that works. And so I'm kind of taking a much slower approach to it just to make sure I have everything interacting together. And TJ gave me some pointers of best practice, not necessarily best practices, just some things that he'd come across when he was implementing things that I'd struggled with, and I'm like, oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense now. So super happy again with Docker. I still think it's going to be the way moving forward. Once Docker itself is maturing, there are a lot of tools that are maturing around it. So it's getting easier to implement, easier to manage. And the idea, just having that environment where you as a developer have complete control over in your development environment and package the whole thing up and have that whole thing deployed, man, what a powerful solution that's going to be. And that's powerful for us, where we're pretty a PHP deployment in the sense of an application server is a pretty vanilla deployment. There's not a whole lot of bells and whistles once you get things dialed in. But I used to manage a Java environment where it was so common that whatever configuration the developers had in their environment would never translate to production. There was always something wrong with it. So and I think Rails, Rails used to have a similar problem with packages and all this. I think,
Node still does.
yeah. So being able to do this development in these containers that have the entire stack in it, and deploying that entire container to a production, it's going to be fantastic. Fantastic. I still think the tools are still missing a little bit, but it's getting close, man. It's getting so close. So yeah, back on the Docker train, digging Docker again.
Nice.
Never really got off the train, but yeah, big Docker guy. What about you? What have you been up to? I've been rambling. I told you before the show even started. I haven't looked at the Trello board. I don't even know what the news items are. I have enough material just in general life and development that I could probably talk for most of the show. So I haven't even asked how your week was. What have you been up to?
It's been all right. Got a sudden last minute feature creep on one of my projects.
Oh, those are always fun.
Yeah, just last second, sort of like, hey, you think you can squeeze this in one day? Like,
this wouldn't be hard.
Yeah.
I just want you to do this one thing. It should be easy, right?
But it was in JavaScript, so even easier. The wife and I are thinking about getting our PI's licenses.
Private investigator license, like Magnum PI.
Yeah.
Are you gonna shave the beard and just keep the mustache?
No, she wants to keep her beard.
Okay.
I don't own it.
I gotta give that one a rip shot. Wait a second. She wants to keep her beard. There we go.
No, I don't own the beard here. This is all at her discretion.
Oh, her beard being your beard, not you.
Yeah.
You were implying that your wife has a beard.
No.
You wouldn't do that again.
I would never.
No. Because those hospital bills were high.
Yeah. That's the first broken bone I've ever had. Anyways, yeah. If you've been following the news the last couple of weeks, I've got some disputes with how Chase does business. And they've made it clear that they don't intend to do their job. And so I found that getting a private investigator's license will give me access to some information that I need and potentially give me a side job defending people from Chase's predatory tactics. So nice. I'm at some point going to be offering my services to people who have been unable to get service from Chase's fraud protection group. Hopefully recover some money from some people that have had the same problem as me.
You need to I don't know, did I get on the soapbox about getting becoming a member of a credit union with you?
Oh yes. We're doing that as well.
Yeah, definitely need to do that. I think I talked about this before, but I'll talk about it before. I'll talk about it again. I never understood the difference between a credit union and a bank. I mean, I thought they were all banks. I just thought a credit union was just a way bank chose to kind of refer to itself. And then I went to work for a credit union, and I saw the difference. Not only the quote unquote marketing difference of, you own the credit union. It's not shareholders, and all of that is true. I mean, it's all true stuff. They're not snowing you at all. But I also saw how credit unions work, and I mean, it's very much like the open source community where credit unions will completely help out other credit unions. There's not really that sense of marketing rivalry where, hey, you're stealing our clients, and no, they help each other all the time. And it's very much we need to become the institution where people have control over their money. So if you're not a member of a credit union, become one. I have not been a member of a bank in a very long time. Unfortunately, I should preference that. my company has a bank account, and we tried not to. Credit unions, because of the nature of a credit union, is not really set up to handle business accounts, and that's a good thing, right? I mean, that's kind of, they try. Some of them have business accounts, but they're not very strong business accounts. So we ended up going back to a bank, and I'm not happy about it. I mean, there's fees up the yin yang, and it's ridiculous. But it's a bank. It's how banks work. And I'd forgotten how banks work. But if you don't have a personal credit union account, you get your ass out there tomorrow and just deposit money into a credit union. Even if you want to keep your bank account, most credit unions you can open an account for like $5 or $10 or $20, whatever.
I am in fact doing it tomorrow.
There you go. Yeah, do that. Do that. Everybody listening, get a credit union account. It supports the credit union, makes it better for everybody, and you'll appreciate it. And the reality of it is, as a personal account, unless you're dealing with big bank, I mean, unless you got like major cash flow, you won't notice the difference. It will be completely transparent. The only thing you'll notice is you'll take out a loan and you'll notice your interest rates are a little lower, or something along that lines. But as far as a financial institute, it's no different than a bank. Insurance is the same. If they get robbed, your money is safe. Get a credit union account. So congratulations on your credit union account, Thomas.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I'm not supposed to talk too much more about my issues with Chase, because we're trying to resolve it now in the branch instead of over their support service or their customer support service. So we'll see where it ends up. I have to go in person and wave at the guy and provide my ID and say, "See, the guy in the picture isn't me." So, and
good luck with that.
I tell you what, though, you know who's really helped me out is the person in charge of security at Target.
Yeah.
Because when my wife went in to talk to her to explain what was going on, and once she realized that Chase had no intention of returning our money, she was fuming.
Really?
Yeah. So she has contacted the police herself and made sure that all of the data that she has been filed with the police report. And yeah, she's on our side here, which
nice.
Yeah, it's good to have a person on your side.
Yeah. Well, so I said my one daughter is doing coding. I have twin daughters, so there's two of them. The other daughter recently started working at Target, and she has had nothing but pleasant things to say about her experience. It's her first job. She's a cashier, so she's actually interacting with the public, which we all know.
God help
people
her.
People like you go through Target.
Yeah.
But she's been real positive about it. Says it's been a real good experience. So it's good. Sounds like a great first experience at working. So it sounds like Target is a cool place to be.
Now, we ended last week's episode on a bit of a sour note.
We did. What was it? I don't remember.
I realized that you weren't paying attention to what I was saying. In fact, you were busy tweeting replies to people during the podcast.
I sent one tweet out, and you were droning on about something. I was listening. It was you droning on.
So we said we would cover this. But
okay.
We talked in the past. You and I personally have talked in the past about how I believe that Windows is turning Linux. They're heading down a particular path.
We had spoken for a long time about the thing that had been attracting developers to the Apple platform was the Unix underlaying, and the fact that they could it was easy to build code and stuff like that. So yeah, we've talked about that. Mm-hmm.
And then we also talked about how Windows was integrating Bash.
Yeah, the Unix, the Ubuntu Bash, right?
Right, the Ubuntu Bash interface. And from there, Docker and Microsoft are working together on a partnership to get the Docker permissions proper access to the Windows kernel so that Docker performs as it should.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So part of what's come out of that is the WSL, the Windows Subsystem for Linux. And this is a sort of virtual mode that can run Linux on Windows. And they announced that they are going to be officially supporting multiple non-Ubuntu distributions on the Windows subsystem for Linux.
So, yes, I believe it was SUSE and
Linux.
Fedora.
Yeah.
Now, SUSE is weird. I'm not sure what the state of it is. That's the one.
It is ancient.
Yeah, well, that's the one Novell purchased years ago, and then they had OpenSUSE. Novell's no longer around, and so yeah, SUSE,
Novell's no longer with us.
And then I believe it was Fedora, right? It wasn't Red Hat. It was Fedora. I should look at.
Well, Red Hat's the parent company. Fedora is the corporate release. I'm sorry, Fedora is the public release.
Fedora is the commercial release. I mean, Fedora is the community release.
Right.
It's not actually Red Hat. I don't think. Is it? Is Fedora Red Hat?
Yeah, it is. It's RHEL.
Oh, okay. All right.
So the kernel for Red Hat splits in a weird way, but yeah, it's Red Hat.
This is super interesting to me. Now, there's a couple of red flags that are going up for me. First off, when Windows did the Ubuntu Bash thing, it was a big deal. Ubuntu was very involved with it. Ubuntu did a bunch of blog posts about how they worked with Microsoft, how things are implemented, how it's being supported, this, that, the other thing. With this new announcement, I didn't see Red Hat say, "Oh yeah, we've been working with Microsoft for months and we implement." I didn't see any of that. Now, whether or not that's Microsoft telling its partners, "Listen, we want some of the glory this time. We want to make it, we want it to be about us, not about you." That might have happened. I don't know. What I'm really concerned about is that isn't what happened. That this is just Microsoft saying, "Yeah, we're going to implement this and we're going to do it our way." Now, that's not completely a bad thing, but if that was the case, it would lead me more down the path of things that you and I talked about in the past, which was Windows moving to a Linux platform. Yeah. So think about that. I mean, AWS, the biggest cloud provider out there. They offer many different distros that you can deploy, but one of the distros that they offer is an AWS Linux, the one that they support. I mean, it seems very logical to me that at some point Microsoft is going to say, "Okay, we'll let you continue to run Ubuntu if you want to, Fedora if you want to, but here is the official supported Microsoft implementation of Linux." And having a Microsoft Linux. I mean, I don't think that's too far of a stretch at all.
Well, yeah, and Microsoft is moving away from the command prompt, which I'm used to, all the way back to Windows 95. Actually, I'm sorry, all the way back to 3.1 for workgroups was the first time I used it. And now the default shell is PowerShell. So I think if you start seeing users of Windows acclimate to the Linux environment and to the command set, then it's not too far off. Now, Windows is still doing some stuff that I think is shifty as hell. They're doing forced automatic updates.
I don't know anything about Windows systems anymore.
I'm a fan. I like the forced automatic updates. Given the prevalence of people who don't know what the hell they're doing, it's a necessity at this point. But one of those updates pushed advertisements onto the file browser, which is shitty.
The Explorer?
Yeah.
Whoa. Pump the brakes here.
Yeah.
You're saying they put ads into the OS File Explorer?
Yeah.
That is shifty as hell.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is that when Microsoft got into the search engine game again, when they did the whole Bing thing,
Mm-hmm.
they made a dedication to advertising revenue that I think people haven't paid attention to. And they're doubling down on that with the new Edge browser defaulting to Bing, Cortana being a Bing search result system. Yeah, unfortunately, your Windows company is also an advertising company. The operating system is being provided by an advertising company now, and people need to understand that when they complain that there's ads on their operating system, because yes, it's going to be that way from now on. It's been like that on the Xbox Live service for years and years and years. Your content on Xbox Live holds the place of one tile surrounded by 16 tiles of advertisements.
It's funny because my mom has a Windows machine, and I thought it was weird, like when you hit the little start menu, all the tiles come up, and half of them look like they were advertisements.
They are.
I'm like, what is this stuff? So I like I said, I haven't worked on a Windows machine day to day in a very long time. I don't necessarily miss it. Am I a little intrigued to revisit it with this Linux implementation? To a small degree, but not really a big degree. There's still not an overwhelming need for me to move over it. I do think that it's kind of ironic, the possibility of saying that Linux is finally on the desktop, or it's the year of the Linux desktop and it's being brought to you by Microsoft. That's
right.
Really weird. The other thing I find kind of strange, and was wondering your opinion on this, there's a lot of focus on the desktop and the users getting Linux in it, but we
thing
know
that doesn't exist anymore.
We know as IT people that the real power is on the server, and you don't see, or at least I haven't seen a lot of discussion about these Linux implementations hitting the Windows servers. Or is there? I mean, I assume there's still Windows servers out there. That's still a thing, right?
It's been a long time. I know you're an MCSE. It's been a long time since I took my MCSE stuff. So when we did it, they were pushing Windows Server as this purest platform. I thought you were.
That shit expires, doesn't it?
No.
It doesn't expire. And matter of fact,
you're an MCSE. You're an MCSE 2000 or whatever.
No, it was before 2000. It was NT4.
Okay, so you're an MCSE NT4.
Maybe an NCP. I would have to find my freaking card now.
But yeah, they were on a system of purity. I think they're getting away from that now. It's a very mixed environment. And I don't see any ASP sites out there anymore. I really don't.
Well, it's .NET now, right?
It's
C. What do they call it now?
CXHTML socks.
No, C# or.
Oh yeah, it is. It's a C# now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting to see where Windows is going. I have a Windows gaming machine. It's going to be Windows forever. But my desktop, which needs to be rebuilt in a couple weeks, is not going to get Windows again.
Okay, but did you hear what happened? What Ubuntu announced?
I didn't. Oh, I did. Ubuntu is ditching KDE.
No.
I'm sorry, no. Ditching
No.
Fine. What?
Strike two.
What do you want?
You're close though. Now I can't remember what it's called. It's ditching the Ubuntu desktop. What is it called? What's the Ubuntu desktop called? It's not GNOME. Unity. It's ditching Unity.
Unity.
So that was when Ubuntu announced Unity, I thought it was weird. I'm like, man, KDE and GNOME are so established in the Linux world. Why do you want to create this other desktop environment? But they saw it as really taking ownership over the distribution, and being able to manage things like notifications and integrations and things like that.
Really dominates the color brown too. They've captured the brown market.
This is true. But yeah, moving forward, no more Unity. The whole Unity desktop now has been stopped. It's now part of the community. The community, there is a community effort to keep it going. I think that'll probably fizzle out here in probably a year or two.
Just like Emacs
did. But yeah, now the default desktop for Ubuntu is going to be GNOME. And some people worry that this is Ubuntu stepping away from the desktop market and focusing more on the servers and where they're making the money out in the cloud.
These are people who weren't using Linux in '98. People who don't remember building systems one icon at a time. The shit that it just does by default now amazes me in comparison to back when Barrel came out and you could have 3D on your desktop and that was the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah. So a lot of interesting things happening in the desktop market. And of course, you still have Apple Mac OS that's just kind of sitting there stagnated. It hasn't changed. I think Apple's just milking that cow. They're so focused on the iPhone and iPad and iOS. They're just like, hey, listen, fuck it. It's not broken. Just let it. Shh. Don't do anything to it.
Yeah, I'm out of the iPhone market completely. I don't understand why someone would prefer that over Android at all. But,
yeah. Well, even the new laptops. John's got one of the newer laptops, and it's just funny the issues he continues to have with it, between the dongles, and I mean, he even has something as simple as a headset with a mic, which was working on the older Mac, doesn't work on the new Mac. And keeping in mind the laptops do have the jack to plug into, and the mic just doesn't work.
Yeah, I like to refer to that as casual disappointment, where you've spent $3,000 on something and someone says, "Why can't you use your regular mouse?" And you just go, "'Cause." Shut up!
Holy crap, Thomas! Look at the time.
What are we at? Oh, okay.
We want to blast through some things here.
Bust right into the news.
Busting through the news now.
All right, this is the first one here is yours. Throw it right at you.
Oh yeah, bump in the minimum version of PHP to PHP 7.1 for Symfony 4. This was announced recently on, I think it was on Twitter, by the Symfony guru dude himself. What's his name? I forget his name.
Fatbot.
What? Fatbot? No, Fabian, right? Is it Fabian or something?
Yeah, but it's Fabian Potencier. His Twitter handle is Fabpot, which every time I see it, I read as Fapbot.
Okay, you are correct. It does say Fatbot. All right, yes. So, first thing, that's a huge jump for Symfony 4 to have a minimal PHP requirement of PHP 7.1, not even 7.0, 7.1, is a pretty hefty leap. The big question now becomes, if you remember, Laravel 5.5 had already announced the minimum requirement for that was going to be PHP 7. That was based on the fact that the Symfony components and a lot of the underlying, no, maybe it wasn't the Symfony components, it was other components underneath of it had that minimum requirement. But again, Laravel depends very heavily on Symfony components. So do we think Laravel 5.6 will have a minimum of 7.1? Which I guess if Laravel 5.5 has
No,
a
it's
minimum
already been announced. If you follow the roadmap, we discussed this a while back, where 7.0 actually gets security support up until next year, but it loses feature support at the end of this year. So 7, I mean, we're moving fast on versions, and we're not getting away from it. Now, at the same time that he announced this, he put out a poll and said, "Do you guys want to support HHVM as well?" And the poll universally came back and said, "Nah." So not only
we're over it.
yeah. So not
Again,
only is it going to require 7.1, but it will not support HHVM anymore.
Laravel's already dropped its support for HHVM. I keep saying Laravel. I need to be able to have it in hashtag Laravel.
Love Laravel. A quick question came up on Reddit. Why does PHP 7.1 use 61% more memory than PHP 7.0 for a simple echo? Do you know why?
Because of the 0.1.
It's opcache. Opcache is enabled by default. Precaches stuff. If you don't want it on your command line, which is what was being used to test, then you're going to have to go in and disable opcaching for the command line. So go ahead and do that.
Opcache for 7.1 is enabled by default.
Absolutely. We discussed a good amount of Tinker.
Fire. You're on fire.
Well, we got to burn. I got a lot of bad news to get to.
Churn and burn, baby. Let's go.
We talked recently about my love for Tinker, the artisan shell command. Yes. Another awesome tip came up that you can say artisan Tinker DD and then quote some code, and it'll just dump it straight back onto the console for you. So if you want to test out.
That's not a tip, it's a package. Wasn't that a package? I think that's a package.
It is a package.
Yeah.
This is the Laravel Artisan DD package.
Right.
Right. But so it allows you
to pull it in through Composer, yeah.
Yeah, it allows you to do things a little bit faster, might help out your workflow. Check it out. Let's continue with the good news. Why not?
Sure.
You know what the NIST is?
So funny to see you. You know, we don't have like sponsors where we have to hit a certain amount of news stories a show or anything. No, but I appreciate
that.
No,
that first 40 minutes, I'm dead silent the entire time. So I'm just taking my opportunity here to speak.
Who's the who? Who's the what?
The NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology.
Okay.
These guys are the official government end of tech security recommendations, laboratory certification, a lot of very official big government things. They've released the sort of outline of their new password requirements, their recommended password requirements. You'll love this. Have you seen this?
No, I have not.
Remove periodic password change requirements. They don't work. And
what? I've said that for years.
Yes.
One of my biggest battles with security in the enterprise was when they implemented this, and we had to change. I think it was every 60 days. And I said, you're forcing people to write down a password because people can't remember. Because not only did it have to change every 60 days, it couldn't repeat itself for like the last 10 or whatever it was. I'm like, you're forcing people to write down a password because they can't remember. You know, they can only remember so many complex passwords. So even if you have a complex password, if you have to change it in 60 days, that's a lot of work. I've said this for years.
Now that goes in tandem with the next recommendation: drop algorithmic complexity requirements. So the thing about the frequent password requirements is that if you combine that with requiring algorithmic complexity, then all you have to do to crack a password is replace the letter S with a $, because everyone does the same thing.
I don't agree with that. My algorithm.
They tested it.
Perhaps, but my algorithm, my method had always been to use sentences with punctuation. So that's how I had handled it. Now that was before
You are
before
a
we had
savvy
these great
person.
tools.
This is not designed for savvy people. This is designed for people banking at, let's say, Chase.com.
They're going to sue us if you keep saying their name in a bad light.
So I've been told.
Yeah.
Now this only works with the next requirement.
Okay.
Require screening of new passwords against lists of commonly used and compromised passwords.
Makes sense.
So just make sure that the password's not easily guessable or already guessed.
Already guessed, yeah. Yep. We definitely have a big enough table out there, rainbow table of this stuff.
Yeah, people are very excited about this. It's going to make things a lot less of a pain in the ass on the internet. I would have liked to see something like recommending a password manager.
Really. It's not going to change anything. You think IT security and some enterprise is going to look at this and say, "Oh yeah, this seems worse." I'm not
in an enterprise, absolutely. In an enterprise, it will. No, but below enterprise levels, it won't.
They won't do it in an enterprise. You're crazy. They won't do this in enterprise. Those knuckleheads have one archaic way of thinking about things that doesn't change, and they have a very it's not changing. Like as soon as they see that, they won't change. Well, we'll see.
So you got a snippet here.
What? I got another snippet. I thought we were running out of time. We were going to skip this stuff. Okay. Yes. The Ghostscript lawsuit. Now, I don't know why this made news, but it did. Basically, it confirmed that an open source license is an enforceable contract. And what had happened was there was a company. I don't know if I want to mention the company. I mean, they're mentioned in the article. So if you're interested, check the show notes, and you'll see who it is. But
we can mention the name of the ruling, which was Artifacts v. Hancom.
This is true. That was the name of the ruling.
The name of the ruling. We're not saying who's involved. We're just saying the name of the ruling.
Yeah. So Ghostscript is an open source license that, like many open source licenses, says if you use our product, you either A, have to open source your product, or B, pay us a licensing fee to use our product. This particular company chose to do neither. The company behind Ghostscript, which I believe is the Artifacts company, sued them, and it was ruled that yes, this open source license is an enforceable contract. It's great. I mean, it shouldn't really be a surprise, but apparently it's enough of a surprise that somebody decided to write about it. But it's an agreement or contract like any other agreement or contract. So, but since we're on that topic, you reminded me, show notes. Don't forget, we'll probably talk about this a couple more times over the next couple of weeks. We have moved the PHP Ugly website and host to Simplecast. The biggest impact to you is if you don't subscribe to us through iTunes or Google Play, and you were subscribing to our RSS feed through SoundCloud, it's no longer on SoundCloud. It's over at Simplecast. You can get there at phpugly.simplecast.fm, or just www.phpugly.com should take you there as well. That's the new RSS feed. That's the new show notes. That's the new embedded players that if you want to share on the website or something you can use. If you're subscribed to us through iTunes or Google Play, nothing's changed for you. We updated all those endpoints, and you'll continue to get your feeds as normal.
If you're hearing this now, don't worry. If you're not hearing this now, we've switched from SoundCloud to Simplecast.
That's right. Good way of putting it.
All right. I need to do some deep knee stretches and grab a beer for this one.
Oh,
we're heading into the darkness.
Oh gosh, where are we at on time? Holy crap, dude! Look at the time.
Don't worry, I'll cover it wonderfully slowly. I'll be right back.
What? Right back? Where are you going? All right, I'm gonna play some intermission music while you're gone. Let's see, what is this? Yeah, some piano. We are currently on a station break. See, people on the live stream don't even get this. All 0 of you. What's this button do? There we go. Jazz it up a little bit. Let's talk about things. It's a podcast, people. We're going to talk about stuff. Shit will be said here tonight. All right, I'm going back to the piano. Oh, it even does a little crossfade. And now we return to PHP Ugly.
So we said it with Microsoft earlier. Once you get in the advertising game, it starts to control you. And the unfortunate news here is that Amazon Echo is entering the advertising game.
Say it ain't so, Joe.
Yeah. So this is a pilot program. There are certain skills that they will allow introductory style advertisements into. So if you've listened to NPR and hear what NPR considers an advertisement, stuff like that. But it's really walking into that territory of advertising to listeners that I don't like, that I know leads companies down bad paths, that I don't want to happen to a device that I love. So keep your ears to the ground. Amazon might end up turning itself into an advertising company at some point soon. But hey, that's not the big news.
So we don't know what that looks like or sounds like or anything right now, huh?
We know what it sounds like. I can give you a quick quote from this article. Say you're using one of the 327 sports skills on Amazon Echo or the Amazon Echo Dot. At the beginning of the skill, you might hear an ad that says, "Welcome, thanks for listening, and thanks to SPN for sponsoring us." After a few more listens to the same skill, it might tell you there's a big game coming up that you need to watch, or things like that. Sort of initially non-invasive, thanks to our sponsors stuff. Not bad, but the start of bad.
Yeah. And it happens so slowly you don't even realize that it's starting to control your behavior. I recently had this happen to me on Hulu. I realized Hulu I'm getting real fed up with. I'm about to cancel my subscription to Hulu. I really think I'm right there.
I've done that.
This latest thing is I really they moved to this watch list format, which I hate. I hate the watch list. Give me my favorites back and let me track my favorites and when new shows come out. They have this watch list now that's funky as hell. It definitely tries to manipulate what you're watching by bumping up on your watch list the things it wants you to watch. But I realized it's like, hey, I haven't seen my daily news on here forever. And it turns out daily news is not on Hulu anymore, along with some other Comedy Central properties have been removed from Hulu. I'm like, this freaking sucks, man. I am so over Hulu right now. I haven't watched it in a very long time. I tell you about that.
Every time I show somebody my piracy setup, they look at it and they go, "Holy shit! How you can do that? That's amazing!" Yeah, it's easy. You just tell it what you watch, and now you have it. Mm-hmm. The end.
Yep.
Yeah, as long as they make piracy more efficient, piracy will win. I'm not sure if you saw it this week, but there was a bit of a ransomware attack hitting Windows machines everywhere.
Windows machines? Really?
Yeah, it's called WannaCry. Well, it's called WannaDecryptor. but everyone's calling it WannaCry because when you get it, you want to cry. And holy shit, the story gets better every day. When I
Okay.
first put this story on our Trello board, it was the second day after it had happened. And it was the announcement that the cryptoware software was spreading using an NSA developed exploit that they had not reported to Windows to be patched. That was day 2. So what this does, it's a worm that you get the link, you run the executable, you do something dumb, it encrypts your hard drive, tells you that you need to pay a ransom of around $400 in Bitcoin to a specific address, and it'll decrypt your stuff once they get your payment. But the big issue here is that it used the Eternal Blue exploit developed by the NSA to infect other machines via SMB protocol. So internal networks, once this thing got inside your network, you were cooked. You were done. Hospitals got shut down. Banks have been hit. I mean, it's been a massive, massive problem. The UK's National Health Service got their entire network shut down because they're all running Windows XP and Windows 7.
How can the NSA not be found or sued for negligence here?
Culpable.
I mean, it is
the
their
president of Microsoft came out and said specifically, this is the result of the NSA's policy on developing exploits without reporting them to vendors. So Microsoft has squarely laid the blame on the NSA. And yeah, and it's, if you don't pay the ransom, your stuff is gone. Absolutely, it's just gone. You don't get it back. If you pay the ransom, it turns out you do get it back. Someone remotely logs into your machine, enters in the decrypt code, and it decrypts all your files. Now, day 3, someone found a URL in the source code, registered the domain name for that URL, and boom, the entire system shut down. It turns out that there was a kill switch built into this version that prevented it from propagating. They're not sure why. It was a security researcher who just sort of accidentally happened upon this and registered the domain to see what was the traffic that was getting, and boom, everything shut down. And he was the hero of the day. But then the next day, a new version was out, didn't have that same safeguard, didn't have that restriction, and hops back out. So I think we're 5 days into it as of this podcast, and there is a line of communications between the people who have been compromised and the people who have authored the software. First off, they appear to be North Korean. Second off, North Korean.
Sure.
That the forensic artists at the government level have said this looks like North Korean software. Now, someone posted onto Reddit their conversation with the ransomer. Basically said, I'm in Bolivia. I make $5 a day. How am I supposed to pay you $400? And the ransomers responded and said, we are sorry. This was not intended for you. We will decrypt you for free.
Really?
Really? It's
ransomware with conscious, huh?
Now,
well, who was it intended for?
To us greedy Americans. Especially given that it was developed by us greedy Americans. So it's still mutating. It's still out there, and it's taking people over. security researchers on YouTube. YouTube people are running VMs to show what happens when you run this software. I mean, it's becoming a pop culture topic because it's been so devastating for people. And they've managed to raise in the area of $50,000 in Bitcoin so far, because you can track how Bitcoin travels to and from people's wallets. They've made some money. Not a lot, but it seems like it's on an exponential curve as well. It seems like people are keeping up.
If you figure the ransomware is $400 a pop, they got $50,000. That's a significant amount of people who paid, right?
Yeah. So it's becoming an issue, and given the sort of state-developed nature of it, the conversation in the public is changing to what happens when all of the newest and best NSA stuff is used to shut down the entire internet altogether.
Yeah.
The way these things spread, if they're spreading through an unpatched exploit in a popular operating system, of which there are only 3, Windows, Linux, Mac, you could shut down the internet if you had a good exploit and just decided not to disclose it, which is the position that the NSA was in, and it got out.
Yeah.
Do you have files?
Do I have files? Yeah, I have
Do you
files.
have files?
I have several files.
I have a file for you, by the way.
What file is that?
Who am I?
I'm not clicking. Oh, you have the Who Am I file.
Yeah, I found a file you would click on, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm gonna click on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I watch a lot of tech shows. Hack5 is something I've been watching since early 2000, even before that, even. And they talked about their personal backup solutions, which include plugging in a hard drive, copying files to it, unplugging it, and then putting it in a secure location in a fire safe. And
I used to actually have an rsync command that did that for me.
I'm kind of getting there now.
So, yeah, I get it.
Most of my stuff is Google Docs or Amazon hosted, but I have some files that I like to keep my eyes on, and I'm realizing I'm not in the most secure position for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be time to break out the old rsync command and start rsyncing to a drive. Yeah.
Here's my question. Amazon runs on one operating system, doesn't it?
No.
The whole of AWS. I mean, we had an Amazon outage that crippled the internet a couple months ago. What if Amazon was just gone?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it would be an adjustment period, but yeah, it would definitely have an impact for sure. Oh.
So I'm getting into backup schemas all of a sudden all over again.
There used to be a really good backup script I used to run on all my servers in my desktop. I think it was a bash script. It might have been called Backup Manager or something like that. It was fantastic. It was very easy to read. It was a bash script, and it would back up file systems. It would compress them. It would zip them. It would actually push them places for you. If you didn't want to back them up to an external drive, it would do databases. I should see if that's still a thing. I bet you it is. Backup Manager. Command line is command line. Twitter seems to be having issues. I haven't been able to post a tweet. I haven't been able to post a tweet this whole time because Twitter was having issues.
Trump is still tweeting. Okay. That's good.
Yeah. Okay.
Can't lose that stream of information.
Backup Manager, it was actually Backup Dash Manager. I even remember there it is. Backup Manager Linux. It's on GitHub now. Look at that. Is this the same thing? That looks like the same freaking. This is it. Backup Dash Manager. It's on GitHub. I used to run this all the time. Wow. I used to put this on my servers, actually. I might need to revisit this one. Wow. Are they still developing this thing? Or yeah? I mean, there's development work on it within the past year. Interesting. Wow.
You want to hear something? You want to hear something funny?
Absolutely, I do.
It's only slightly political. Donald Trump claimed that this current investigation is a giant witch hunt, that there has been no greater witch hunt towards a politician in history.
Sure.
You know who responded?
Please tell me Barack. Please tell me it was Barack. Who?
It's so much better. The mayor of Salem.
Oh man, I have no sympathy for this guy on any level whatsoever. I mean, this guy is a joke.
You can't feel bad for a narcissist. They feel bad enough for themselves.
He's not even a narcissist. He's
he's textbook.
Oh, he's a sleazy, scummy. I can't. I've never had such a hatred to one of our leaders ever before that I do towards this guy. The guy just flat out lies, and he gets caught in his lies. And he's just like, whatever, you know. Oh, I can't. I can't stand it.
You didn't see on Facebook. I posted a tweet on Facebook.
What was that? I don't Facebook.
It said, media reports president shat himself. White House responds, the president did not shit himself. Donald Trump tweets, I shit myself on purpose.
I know. The latest thing with them exposing some secret stuff or some confidential information to Russia. I try not to watch too much of this stuff because, like I said, it infuriates me. And I know people who are supporters and I know people who are against, and I really don't want to get involved with this. I don't.
I know.
But it was funny. They were talking about this recent thing where I guess he exposed some classified information to some Russian delegates or something. Again, I'm not really up on the details. And they were doing the press thing afterwards where the guy's like, no, this didn't happen, this, that, the other thing. I was there, blah, blah, blah. And they were breaking down what he said and explaining how this is a textbook deflect and dodge and deflect response. He talks about how at no point did we talk about any of our plans for a mutual whatever the statement was.
Mutually assured destruction.
The lady's response was, nobody accused him of that. That's a very classic deflection practice where they say this absolutely didn't happen when it didn't, and nobody ever said it did. But they put it out there so that people focus on it and don't ask the other questions that are out there. Yeah. I'm like, oh man, you've got to be kidding me. So yeah, this is a tough one, man. This is such a tough one. I really is. I'm happy.
So
I'm happy with it.
Let's close this on an up note. I have something great for you.
Okay, let's hear it.
I work in the adult entertainment industry.
I do know this. Bow chicka wow wow. Do I have a button for that one?
One of the things about that is you become jaded. You become sort of blind to the content on your screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I got up to go use the restroom, and when I came out of the restroom, my wife was running from the bed to my computer to shut off monitors and trying to usher my son out of the room at the same time. So, long story short, my children are now aware that I work in the adult entertainment industry as well.
Oh, jeez.
We've had to disclose to them that I don't actually work for the CIA, and that the reason they can't be in my room is because of a particular image of a giant smiling anus on my screen 24/7.
Dude, you need a lock for your door.
You haven't seen this picture. I mean, we do marketing, and we have these giant marketing banners. You have not seen this picture. It is an abrupt introduction to the nature of pornography. It's one photo that makes you age from 13 to 14 upon seeing it.
Oh, jeez.
It is nightmarish.
I don't think I need to see that one. No. I'm good. I like my freakiness, but yeah, I don't need to be jaded.
For about 5 minutes after having been removed from my room and office, all he could say was, "What was that? Mom, what was that? What was that?"
I really hope Child Protective Services don't listen to our show.
It was love, son.
Oh gosh, a special sort of love. Yeah. That's one of those interesting situations about the work that you do, combined with the fact that you are a remote worker, that I don't think a lot of people think through.
Yeah. No, there have been plenty of meetings between me and you and other Diego Dev employees where I've had to make sure that my laptop was facing a wall and not a window.
Oh yeah, we've worked remote several times where that was a consideration.
All right. Well, there's one thing we haven't covered, and we will cover it next week.
It's gonna be a long one.
Net neutrality is losing its title to
anything next week.
Absolutely covering. Oh, you're right.
I know.
We have to do it now.
You're killing me, Smalls. What do you want to talk about?
Net neutrality is dead.
Oh Jesus! Don't. Let's not go down. That's not.
I told you.
I just went off the hinges about number 45 here. You don't get me started on net neutrality. Killing me, Smalls.
So we will discuss this in a future episode. But the breaking news is that net neutrality has lost Title II, and everything net neutrality. Yeah, it's gone. It's done for. They completely ignored the comments from the public. So it's a done deal.
People, you've got to take advantage of your next election.
Please, I swear, please do.
All right, way to bring us all down for another couple weeks, Thomas. Good.
Don't worry. I'll make that the intro.
Awesome. All right. You don't want the smiling anus to be the intro? Yeah.
I don't think that's going to make it to the podcast.
That would just be your face. Oh wait, I gotta hit my rim shot again. Where's it at?
Rim shot, guy.
All right, brother. I think this is turned into a hefty show to edit. I thought we were flying through it there for a while, but hopefully you can knock this one out pretty quick. All right. So I think that's going to wrap it up for episode 61 of PHP Ugly. I'm Eric Van Johnson.
I'm Tom Rideout.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly. I gotta send you.
That was massively long.
Yeah. Well, your section at the beginning.